They say language is the soul of a people. In the Philippines, that soul is a vibrant tapestry woven from over 100 distinct dialects, each carrying the warmth of Bayanihan and the resilience of a history written in blood and bamboo. But what happens when an outsider arrives, not to learn, but to silence that soul? For centuries, Filipinos have mastered the art of adaptation. They are hospitable, patient, and incredibly strong. But kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. This is the story of a man who thought his language was a crown, and the nation that showed him it was merely a leash. Enter Sterling Vance. A decorated academic from the West, Vance wasn't just a teacher. He was a self-proclaimed civilizer. With a PhD in linguistics and an ego visible from orbit, he arrived in Manila to head the English department at a prestigious university. He didn't come to teach, he came to correct. From day one, Vance radiated a toxicity that suffocated the room. He viewed the Filipino accent not as a regional flavor, but as a defect. To him, the local dialects Tagalog, Bisaya, Ilocano were merely uncivilized noise clogging the machinery of global progress. He was the savior nobody asked for, determined to scrub the island out of his students. His policy was absolute, English only, but it wasn't just a rule, it was a weapon. Any student caught speaking a dialect, even during recess, was docked grades. More than that, he implemented the chair of shame. If you slipped into your mother tongue, you sat in the front facing the class, wearing a sign that read, "I am not ready for the world." He farmed an aura of untouchability. He would stop lectures to mimic a student's accent, laughing at their hard tongues. He told them, "Your culture is why you are poor. You cling to the past. Speak like me, and perhaps you will matter." He crushed their confidence daily, mistaking their respectful silence for submission. He didn't understand that in the Philippines, silence is often the gathering of a storm. Among the students was Ligaya. Born in a fishing village in Cebu, she worked 3 jobs to afford this education. She spoke 4 languages fluently. To Vance, she was a peasant. To her classmates, she was the glue holding them together. When Vance mocked them, Ligaya didn't look down. She stared right at him, her face a mask of stone. The tension broke on a Tuesday. Vance was ranting about how the Filipino concept of utang na loob, or debt of gratitude, was primitive tribalism. Ligaya interrupted him. She spoke in perfect, fluid English, asking for clarification. Vance, threatened by her competence, sneered, "Your diction is passable, Ligaya, but I can still smell the salt water on your vowels. Sit down." Vance grew bolder. He wanted a bigger stage. He orchestrated a televised national academic forum on the topic, Language as the Architect of Success. It was to be broadcast live, attended by university donors, politicians, and thousands of students. He planned to use his own students as props examples of raw material he was refining. He specifically selected Ligaya to join him on stage. He intended to ask her complex questions, hoping she would stumble under the pressure, proving his point that without his rigorous English-only doctrine, they were incompetent. He thought he was walking into a coronation. He had no idea he was walking into a revolution. The night of the event, the auditorium was packed. The air conditioning hummed, fighting the heat of 3,000 bodies. Senators, celebrities, and the academic elite filled the front rows. Vance walked onto the stage like a Roman emperor, basking in the applause. He adjusted his microphone, his smile tight and predatory. For 20 minutes, Vance lectured the Philippines on its own identity. He called local dialects anchors of mediocrity. He claimed that true intelligence could only be articulated in the king's English. The crowd was quiet, that famous Filipino hospitality stretching to its breaking point. Then he called Ligaya to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vance's voice echoed, dripping with condescension. "Ligaya here is a perfect example of potential handicapped by heritage." Ligaya explained to this esteemed audience the etymological superiority of the Anglo-Saxon root over the Austronesian construct. "Prove that your native tongue is capable of complex thought." Ligaya leaned in. "Professor, you ask for complexity." She spoke in English, her accent polished, crisp, and terrifyingly precise. "You believe language is a hierarchy, a ladder where you sit at the top, but you have mistaken volume for value. You speak to command, we speak to connect. And there are depths in the Filipino soul that your superior vocabulary cannot reach. You want to ban our dialects?" Ligaya asked, her voice softening but carrying more weight Then tell me, Professor Vance. How do you say Bayanihan in English? Is it community work? No, that is too cold. Bayanihan is the spirit of carrying a neighbor's burning house on your own shoulders, just so they have a place to sleep. Your English has no word for that kind of sacrifice. Vance stepped forward. Stick to the prompt, student. Ligaya ignored him. How do you translate giggle? Is it aggression? No. It is an overwhelming urge to squeeze something because you love it too much. It is love so big it becomes physical. And what about tempo? It isn't just sulking. It is a silent demand to be wooed back, a test of affection. She turned to Vance, her eyes blazing. You have a dictionary, Professor. But we have a heartbeat. Then she dropped the English. Sabihin ni Jose Rizal, her voice thundered in Tagalog. Ang hindi marunong magmahal sa sariling wika, higit pa sa hayop at malansang isda. He who does not love his own language is worse than an animal and smelly fish. The audience gasped, then roared. It was the ultimate cultural checkmate, using the words of their national hero against a foreign oppressor. Vance was sweating profusely now. He looked small. He tried to speak, but the audience was chanting. You see us as servants because we serve, Ligaya said, switching back to English for the final strike. But you mistake our Malasakit for submission. We are the pearl of the Orient seas, Professor. We bend like the bamboo in the storm, yes. But have you noticed? The bamboo never breaks. The oak tree, arrogant and stiff, is the one that snaps. The applause wasn't just noise, it was a rejection. Vance stood there, a man who demanded English only, rendered speechless by a room united in a language he refused to learn. He didn't just lose a debate. He lost his aura. In the Philippines, you can be rich, and you can be powerful, but if you lose your dangle, your honor, in front of the crowd, you have lost everything. Vance resigned the next day. He left the country as quickly as he arrived, a footnote in the university's history. But the lesson remained. He tried to break the Filipino spirit by taking their voice, only to realize that their voice was a chorus he could never comprehend. The Philippines is a nation of survivors, of joyous warriors. They welcome you with open arms, but if you try to make them feel small in their own home, they will remind you the bamboo bends in the wind, but it never, ever breaks. True intelligence isn't about how many big words you know. It's about how deeply you can connect with the human heart. And that brings us to the question of the day. Have you ever had someone try to shame you for your culture or your accent, and how did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.